for about a month, I've been playing O's with a Metal Pen Nib, and that was a mistake. But it's not what you think, well, mostly at least. So let's get into it. So, bit of a background story. You know pen nibs, they degrade, right? And for some reason, I'm pretty sensitive to that shit. So I actually replace them a bit more often. Honestly, no idea how people like BTMC can play like that. But whatever, I thought, what if there's a better way? First mistake, cause who knows, there's never any shortcuts. But one quick trip to AliExpress and a few weeks later, there it was. Okay, quick interruption. If you copy any of this, just keep in mind that you can forget about the warranty on both your tablet as well as any cover you might have, cause yeah, they weren't designed for this. So if you break anything, that's your fault. Anyways, back to the video, cause surprisingly, I couldn't find anyone else who has ever tried this before. But that just meant that I could be the first one to reap all of the cool rewards. And so I started playing, and I could already see myself making this video, but a bit different, cause honestly, it wasn't a bad nib. Well, at the time at least. Anyways, let's look at some gameplay. And as you can see, I'm not playing on the raw tablet. So sure, it doesn't tell you how it would perform on that, but I really can't imagine it would do much better. Anyways, let's get to the actual issues. Cause a month later, the cover still hasn't torn. The pen nib still looks factory new, and yet I switched back. So what gives? There are two reasons for that. First one, it's really slippery. Don't know how I didn't notice it at first, but compared to a regular nib, it has very little stopping power, making precise aiming pretty difficult. So over time I had to adjust my grip to compensate for that. But that only put more strain on my hands, so it wasn't really a good solution. And sure, even though for me that was what made it unplayable, you could still somehow argue preference with that. Like maybe your grip is super stable, so that wouldn't be a problem. So let's move on to the next point, scratching. Now scratching was of course something that I was really worried about, cause what extremely little resources you could actually find online all cited that as their main concern, and I mean, it's obvious, you're literally rubbing metal on plastic. And on day 2, when there was suddenly black sludge coming off of my tablet, I already thought, well now you've done it. Wish I had recorded it cause it looked pretty crazy, but no, it wasn't actually the tablet cover breaking. Instead, it was actually scratching out the remains of the previous pen nibs I had used, cause some of that seems to have stuck to my cover. But after that first stroke, surprisingly, nothing else seemed to happen. Like I even regularly went over my cover with a flashlight to check for scratches, but there was nothing. But switching back to a regular nib, the play area felt really weird. Turns out, there were actually just invisible micro scratches. Yeah. Now what do you gotta say, I have a relatively soft grip, meaning I don't even push hard into the tablet, but it still feels basically unusable for regular nibs now. Interestingly enough, if I switch back to metal, it's kinda fine. But to answer the question with which you probably clicked on this video, should you buy this? No, cause I cannot in good conscience recommend this. Sure, if you play on paper and don't care if that gets trashed, then maybe you might have an argument. But if that was your use case, why are you here? Like I said, you wouldn't care if it gets scratched, you can just replace it. But for everyone else, my advice would be, stay away from it as far as you can. But with that, we've reached the end of today's video. Please like and subscribe so I feel like this experiment was at least somewhat worth it. Click here to watch my previous video, or click here to watch whatever YouTube recommends you. And with that, see you next time.